Hi everyone, this is Khalid Sasa and you're watching Pali Threads. So today I want to continue on the last video that I did and I want to focus again on what's happening with Iran, but specifically I want to focus on what's being said in the media because there is a lot being said, and living in the West and just doing Google searches, looking up Iran, typing up Israel and seeing what it brings up, and just hearing from people that I know what is being thought and read in the media. There's so much lies out there, and I want to talk about these lies. Let's talk about the facts. There is a clear pro-Israel bias in Western media. Shock. First, there is a clear attempt to keep the image of Israel as strong, the unpenetratable, invincible Israel, that Iran is a weak, unstable state, unable to defend itself, unable to fire missiles, that its technology is not Western, they must be failures, that their defense missiles, which they develop themselves, must also be failures. Whereas Israel is white European technology and is very advanced air superiority. So it must mean that Israel is winning and that Israel has absolutely decimated Iran. For starters, this shouldn't even be in the media. Like, when did you see, Russia victorious in crushing Ukraine? Russia, like, this shouldn't be like a victory, a losing. This is one government, military, going, while its leadership are already in the criminal court, international criminal court, going and launching an assault on another sovereign country, going and attacking throughout the entire country of Iran and killing people everywhere. Not just scientists and government military officials, but killing families, children. If you compare the headlines when Russia first invaded Ukraine, all the Western media, the headlines were, Russia invades Ukraine. When you go on their websites, if you want to read about the specific news relating to Russia and Ukraine, it would say Russian assault on Ukraine, always on CP24 in Toronto, on CBC News, wherever. Whereas with Israel's assault on Iran, the headlines are Israel-Iran war. How? It is Israel's assault on Iran. Why aren't we making that clear? That needs to be the focus of the headline. Israel's violation of international law, of the rule of law. But we throw it all out. And I'm going to get to that soon when we talk about the statement and the horrific statement by the G7 just fully backing Israel's violation of international law, or the German chancellor saying Israel's doing the dirty work for us. I recently made a post about Iran's military power, and I posted it on different places, and the responses that I got to my post on the new Instagram, Twitter, Meta Twitter thing called Threads was crazy. First I want to talk about what I said in the post. I just wanted to give a more holistic view of Iran and to describe its power. First, I said Iran is a country with over 90 million people, okay? One of the world's most populated countries. 960,000 soldiers, more than that. They have almost 1 million soldiers. They have triple the population of Iraq when it was invaded by the United States in 2003. They are self-sufficient. They are not running on weapons that they were given by the Americans, by the French. Iran builds their own weapons, not just their missiles, their tanks, their ships, and now even their jets and their drones, which they export to other countries, including Russia, but also they export their weapons and missiles to Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other groups in the region. And Iran is a very influential government. They have exported their ideology. They have so much support in the region and even abroad, even in South America. Also, Iran has planned and prepared for this exact moment. Iran knows that Israel has been for years saying, we will strike Iran, we will strike Iran, and the US keeps saying, we will strike Iran. And they know it's not bluffing. They have seen it happening all over the region, and they monitor and have strong security intelligence service that are aware that things are going to happen. And I talk in my post about the geographical terrain, how it makes Iran basically impossible to conquer. The post on Threads got 874 likes and almost as many comments, 789 comments. And like the comments went from Iran's military has been completely knocked out. Iran is about to be a parking lot. The same things that they would say about Gaza. Explain Israel having complete control over Iran's airspace. This is a point that I'm going to touch on. Again, this war is not even Iran versus Israel. It is Iran versus Israel, the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, all of these Western countries. This is what this is about. As the German chancellor said, Israel is fighting, is doing their dirty work. It is the West wanting no strong Muslim power, a desire to see the entire Muslim world in complete submission. And if they get Iran, have no doubt that the West and Israel will next come for Turkey, the next major Muslim power, even if Turkey's government is incredibly Zionist. But they will have no trust, no faith in any Muslim government. Now I want to shift focus. I want to focus on the military side of all of this and how the media has been talking about it. If you look up Iran on Google, you're going to see how apparently Iran has just 3,000 missiles in its stock. This is according to the Israelis. All the sources will say Israeli sources say that Iran has this many missiles. Why the heck are we trusting Israeli sources? Why do we trust Israel when it comes to everything, but we don't trust Iran when they're making their claims? Somehow, Iran only has 3,000 missiles, but Hezbollah, who Iran exports its missiles to, had 150,000 missiles before they were defending Lebanon against Israel. Apparently, Iran, according to Western media, its proxies are stronger than Iran itself. Apparently, Iran likes to give them more missiles than it likes to keep for itself. According to Western media, Iran has been decimated and they have done not a scratch to Israel as a response. Israel's missile defenses have been fantastic at repelling everything, apparently. Maybe your little bit things here slipping through, but mostly it's been fine. A Guardian article even is headlined, Israel's attack has exposed Iran's lack of firepower. First of all, how crazy. You're saying Israel's attack. So you're acknowledging that Israel attacked the sovereign state. And rather than say then condemning it in the article or exposing that Israel attacked this other state, you're saying expose the lack of Iran's firepower. Like, this is what you got out of, first of all, no, like actually, Iran has showcased a very impressive response to the Zionist regime, diplomatically, militarily, strategically, and this is something that we'll discuss. But it's astonishing that an assault on another country, imagine like Russia assaults Ukraine, and it's like Russia's assault on Ukraine exposed the lack of missiles that Ukraine has in its stock, the lack of its firepower. I cannot believe that is actually even a headline that is put out there by a recognized, like, widely known newspaper. And if you read through the article, it's loaded with assumptions and biases with a clear pro-Zionist agenda. In quotes, Israel is expected to have calculated Iran's response and to have prepared enough stockpiles of defenses. So this article, first of all, assumes the best in Israel, that Israel is intelligent. It is not saying that we know how much Israel has in terms of missile defenses, because Iran might literally just be using its drones and not its very strong missiles yet, because it can be trying to deplete Israel's strongest Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 long-range defense missiles. But here it's saying that Israel is expected to have calculated and prepared enough. How do you know that? Okay, what about Iran? Why don't you say Iran is expected to be calculating and trying to deplete its missile defenses? But no, Iranians are just stupid. The article also talks about how Iran, I don't know if it was this article or another one, Iran, if it would be smart to use its best missiles from the beginning, but it's stupid to not use your best missiles from the beginning, and that Iran isn't being smart. Yeah, apparently, they're idiots, these Muslims in the Iranian regime. And these Zionists are white Europeans in power, are genius, and they know what they're doing. This is literally racism on full display. Why is it that we accept claims by Israel's military of who it killed, what it bombed, but not Iran's? Iran has made clear the military sites that it targeted, the planes, the drones that it has downed. But the media will not report on these the same way that they will report on the claims made by the Israeli military. The Israeli military is seen as more reputable in Western media. Whether the West or Zionists like to believe it or not, or even a lot of the monarchist Persians, Iran has been putting a massive blow onto Israel. Why do you think that Israel isn't allowing its people to leave the country? There's literally, go read Israeli news headlines. They are talking about how Israel is blocking airlines from allowing Israeli citizens from getting on planes to leave the country. Because so many Israelis are freaking out from the massive destruction that Iran is bringing to them in response to Israel attacking Iran. And these citizens are trying to run away back to the countries which they came from since they're not indigenous to Palestine. Why are Israeli police attacking journalists, including far-right pro-Israel journalists like those from Fox News, who I watched on video, get harassed by police to stay away from sites that Iran had attacked? The Israeli police, the Israeli government is fully censoring the ongoing situation in occupied Palestine. Iran is bringing a huge blow to the Israeli regime. If Israel is so unscratched, then why is it putting this massive censorship? Why are you jailing people who are filming the damage sites caused by Iran? Some strikes have been too noticeable and Israel can't hide them because just where they're located within cities or just how bad the damage is. And so, for instance, we could talk about the Weizmann Institute, which is one of the largest Zionist scientific research centers, and Iran completely destroyed it, and it would cost over $500 million to rebuild, and years of research has been lost. This is a research facility that received one of the most funding from the European Union. I believe I read over $600 million. And do you think that the European Union is going to put $600 million back now at a research facility in occupied Palestine, knowing that it can all get bombed out and thrown out? No. This is going to be a permanent loss for the Israeli state. Not just this, so many things, like a lot of companies and investors, will they see it as a stable, safe place? Even if maybe there's no attack that will come after what happens with Iran in the coming year, does it seem like a stable place 20 years from now? Do you want to lose this much money? Of course not. So you'll go look somewhere else. You'll look for a sane country that's not going out there to assault countries to distract people from genocides they're committing in Palestine. Israel is also spending $5 billion a week currently only in its war against Iran. This doesn't even include Gaza, Lebanon, their strikes on the Houthis 2,000 kilometers away. The $5 billion is because, first of all, the interceptions, the Iron Dome, the Arrow 2, the Arrow 3 missiles cost a lot of money. The jets to send all the way to Iran with the tankers, it costs a lot of money. The damage that is done internally within occupied Palestine, that costs a lot of money. And these aren't being discussed. $5 billion a week for a population under 10 million people. If you extend that over the span of a year, that's about 260 billion US dollars. Where do you think that money is coming from? It's US taxpayers that are footing the bill. As I said, this is not Iran versus Israel. This is Iran versus Israel, the US, Britain, Germany, all of these Western countries who are arming Israel to go and fight Iran as they went and supported Saddam back in the day to fight Iran. I want to go back, since this video we're supposed to be focusing on the media and its pro-Israel bias. The Guardian article highlights this person called Fabian Heinz, a German missile analyst, I didn't know that's a whole thing, for the International Institute of Strategic Studies, who was a research development specialist in the defense industry, and holds a BA in political science and Islamic studies. Honestly makes him more creepy. And apparently he did an exchange at Isfahan University. And so, according to this German, again, whose government says that Israel's doing dirty work for them, Israel has exposed Iran's capabilities as inefficient. So that's what his analysis is in the article as a military expert. Most recently, the G7 met here on Turtle Island, hosted by Canada. And the G7 took a clear stance on their positioning in Israel's assault on Iran. They said, we reiterate our support for the security of Israel. We also affirm the importance of the protection of civilians, sandwiched in there. And then Iran is the principal source of regional instability and terror. And we have to use the word terror because we have to make sure, we're Islamophobic and Iranians and Muslims are terrorists. Not the Israeli military, which itself, like in 2021, back when they were assaulting Sheikh Jarrah, the IDF said, the Israeli military said, our goal is to strike terror. Like, this is literally on their Twitter page until today. You can look it up. The Israeli military told the world on Twitter, we are terrorists. But here's the G7 saying we support the Israelis, the actual terrorists, but we condemn Iran and they're the terrorists. Just remember, every accusation by the Zionists and their supporters is a confession. So the G7 is projecting, they're the ones that destroyed the Middle East. And in their statement, they also add, we have been consistently clear that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. It's funny coming from a group where basically half of them have nuclear weapons. The United States, the United Kingdom, France, and of course, Israel has nuclear weapons. So I don't get it. Why can Iran never, ever have a nuclear weapon? But these G7 countries and Israel can. Why is it that white Islamophobic countries get to have nuclear weapons, but a Muslim country can't to defend itself? Why can't they be able to have deterrence, nuclear deterrence? Again, personally, I obviously would love a world without nuclear bombs. I would love a world without weapons, without militaries, without war. I'm for demilitarization and against nuclear proliferation. At the same time, in a world where France, UK, USA, Israel have nuclear bombs, how is it fair that they get to go and tell another country, specifically a non-white country, that they can't have a nuclear bomb while they still have theirs? That is hypocrisy, it is racism, and it is injustice. At the start of Israel's assault on Iran, Israel said that this will be a 2-week war, mission, project, whatever. Maybe, I think it was similar to what Russia said. It was a special operation, something like that. Now, the Israeli military has said that it's going to be a prolonged war. If Israel had such air superiority and had annihilated the Iranian military, which is something that I heard, then why will it be a prolonged war? Maybe Israel has not annihilated the Iranian military. Maybe Iran is very strong. Literally today, so as of the time that I'm recording this video, the Israeli Ministry of Interior was destroyed. As I mentioned, the Weizmann Institute of Research was destroyed, and each of these buildings were destroyed with multiple missiles piercing through into them. It's not just one missile that made it through the Iron Dome or the aero defense systems. If Iran wants to get their target, they have clearly proven that they will get that target with multiple missiles to fully flatten the buildings, just as Israel is able to do in Gaza. Literally, there's scenes right now in Israel that look like Gaza, and there's civilians trying to leave. At least they can leave. Palestinians in Gaza can't leave their territory. But there's Israelis trying to leave, but the Israeli government isn't letting them. They're like, no, you are staying here. You are not going to defeat our Zionist project. But Iran has managed to get Israelis wanting to leave and to go to Europe or wherever their ancestors came from. And talking about air superiority, and let's talk about militaries. You cannot compare the Israeli military to the Iranian military, or the Iranian military to other conventional militaries. Iran's military is not conventional. It is built for asymmetrical warfare. Iran never wanted to have air dominance. Iran never planned on, in a war with Israel, to have air dominance. It knows the jets that Israel has, that the Americans have. This is why it built things deep down under mountains, in bunkers, the way that they did. And this is why they've built so many missiles and have allies and groups in the region that are ready to help them in the time that they need support. This is why Iran has built its navies with so many speedboats fitted with upgraded missiles on them that swarm other larger ships. Iran knows that it is heavily sanctioned and plays to its strengths using its geographical terrain and its missile defense systems to be able to sustain itself in the long term. Israel doesn't have superiority because it can't control Iran's skies sustainably. $5 billion a week will not last. And even then, it is not safe for them. Israel's planes and drones have been getting shot down. Ultimately, Trump said that Iran will surrender, needs to surrender. Let's see if the Americans are going to strike Iran. I expect that they will because of the pressures of the Israel lobby on the American government, and it will be to the detriment of the US and its allies in the region and all those who support the Zionist entity. Iran has been very patient. Just because China has not yet went and taken Taiwan doesn't mean that China's weak. Iran's leadership could have behaved the way that Saddam in Iraq behaved when he'd get really upset or triggered by another country. Just launch an attack. Go launch an attack against Iran. Go and invade Kuwait. Do whatever. Iran is not like that. Iran actually plays less like most Arab countries and more similar to the way China plays. Very slow, strategic, patient, sometimes too patient, and tactical. But I believe this is exactly what is happening in this case. They're trying to give space and time, hoping that a settlement can be reached before going more all out with their military. I certainly don't believe Iran has what the estimates have been saying, 2,000 to 3,000 missiles. And I don't think Israel has too much left in its missile defense batteries. I've seen even the Western military analysts who keep talking about how terrible Iran's military is and raving about Israel's actions against Iran, skeptical over how much Israel might have in its missile defense systems. And we've seen so much of Iran's missiles piercing through. But also, even if Iran happens to be down in its missiles, don't be shocked if we saw recently China send a transport military plane to Iran secretly. Now we know. Don't be shocked if Russia sends support to Iran. Both governments have clearly taken sides as well. The G7 has fully taken Israel's side. Russia and China have clearly taken Iran's side. And Iran is very important for both of these countries. And don't be surprised even if Iran happens to have only 3,000 missiles, which I highly doubt that Hezbollah had 150,000, if that's true, and Iran has 3,000. But let's say that's true. I imagine Russia, China, perhaps North Korea, and other countries that rely on Iran, whether for its cheap sanctioned oil, whether Russia relying on Iran's drones and Iran in helping to maintain Russia's commercial aircrafts. Because, for instance, Iran has been sanctioned for decades now. And after Russia was heavily sanctioned, Russia didn't have the expertise that Iran has built over decades in being able to maintain its commercial aircrafts when it can't get parts needed for them. And Iran somehow has found a way to be able to keep maintaining its aircrafts through domestic produced parts or whatever it is. So Russia actually has been sending its commercial aircraft since it's been heavily sanctioned for repairs and maintenance in Iran. And there's other strong cooperation between these countries. So I really don't see these points being raised in Western media analyses. And even if Iran is standing strong and able to sustain itself, it is and it will receive support. Although Russia's president this week said that Iran hasn't requested for aid or assistance from Iran, but don't be surprised if they do receive some support. In the end, Iran will not surrender. They will be patient. They will be tactical. Western media is filled with lies, Threads is incredibly Zionist now that I've learned. I mean, I know they're all very Zionist, meta-Zionist, but I'm just shocked because I haven't experienced such attacks by being critical of what's happening and of talking about Palestine. The attacks by Zionists are just unmatched. I've never experienced what I've experienced on Threads. So I'll leave that there. We're going to keep following what happens and what happens maybe from the time that I've recorded this to the time that I've released. But yeah, I'm very optimistic. And in the end, Palestine will be liberated very soon. And the entire region will soon be liberated from Zionism and the Zionist entity. Until then, take care. See you soon. Khaled. Salam.